The internet has a lot of feelings about this person, and so do you.
I
And
do.
they may not know this, but I know this person is your dude. You don't know him personally,
Hmm.
but you're a fan of this person, a supporter of this person. And once again, they're all over the internet,
Yeah.
shaking shit up.
Shaking it, shaking it, shaking it. Shaking it
Shake it.
off, baby.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So, a lot of people know Keith Lee has been visiting different cities. If you don't know who Keith Lee is, you should just look him up because everybody probably know who he is at this point. But he's a food critic who started on TikTok and is now got all type of fly shit going on.
Yep.
And so he got a lot of flack a while ago because he was in Houston.
Also a former MMA fighter.
Also a former MMA fighter. That's true. Him and his brother.
Hmm.
Um, Keith Lee went to Atlanta and broke the internet because he gave some interesting feedback to some restaurants that celebrities had ties to
Yeah.
and that were famous.
Hmm.
And shit hit the fan. The internet lost their mind. That was months ago at this point.
Yeah.
Now, Keith Lee has ended his tour of sorts
Hmm.
of trying different food in major cities.
Hmm.
And Keith Lee has a list of 8 cities, his top 8 cities. All right, so here we go. Keith
Hmm.
Lee's list is number one, top city of the year for him, of his city tour, whatever we're calling it. New Orleans.
Okay.
Number two, Houston. Just kidding. Houston. Number three, Chicago. Number four, Las Vegas.
He lives in the Vegas area. So he's reviewed more food in Las Vegas than he's reviewed anywhere else because he lives over there.
Got it. Number five, Los Angeles, LA.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Okay.
Number six, Detroit.
Okay.
Remember, this list only has 8 cities.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the ones I've been to versus the ones I haven't.
Number seven, New York.
Hmm.
And last on the list is good old Atlanta.
Which no one is surprised that Atlanta is number 8, and I'm actually not surprised that New York is number 7. He didn't have the
Well,
best experience in New York, as far as I know.
right. So this is what's interesting about the list.
Hmm.
He went on this quote unquote tour, and lots of people from those cities were saying you're not going to the right places. Whoever's giving you recommendations is not giving you good recommendations. Now, you might know this answer. I don't know the answer, but I don't know how he chose where he went when he went to these cities. What I do
I
know
do know the answer to
is
that.
okay, good.
So what he would do is say, "Hey, I'm going to New York. Send me recommendations." He has over 1 million followers. I don't remember how many followers he has on TikTok, but it's definitely well over 1 million. Um,
Hmm.
so he says to his following, "Hey, I'm going to be in New York. Let me know where I should go." He's like, I want, and his whole model, if for his followers at least, his whole model has been to support local smaller businesses. So I think there's also an assumption that people are not giving there's also an assumption that the recommendations should fit that criteria, right? It shouldn't necessarily be, I don't know, Ruth's Chris, right? It should
Right,
be more, or not necessarily the most popular spot,
right,
but rather what spot, because the whole idea, not necessarily with the food tour, but just in general with him being a food critic and going to local businesses is that he's helped a lot of struggling businesses by going there and trying their food and rating it. And
Right.
then, this sparks, they call it the Keith Lee effect. This
Yes, they do.
sparks, a bunch of people just showing up and being like, well, if it's good enough for Keith Lee, it's good enough for me. So yeah, so he basically said to his followers, "Hey, I'm going to New York. Let me know where I should go," which a lot of influencers do when
Yeah.
they're traveling. They ask people for recommendations.
Yep.
They ask locals to help them out and tell them where they should go. But New York happened specifically. Well, we could get to that. I know you were about to say something else, but that is how he did it. And I think he said that it had to be at least 100 people recommending one place. So he didn't just, you know, see a list of places and, Google them and decide he wanted to go there. He made sure, I guess there's a way for them to aggregate that information. And he made sure that it was over a certain amount of people that had recommended a place for him to go to it.
Got
So,
it.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I know that there was criticism about the places he went to in New York.
Yes.
There was a lot of talk about the bacon, egg, and cheese. People said it looked like a panini. People said,
Oh yeah, it was like I
people
think
said,
one of them that he had was like really dry,
yeah,
and then which a bacon egg and cheese is like a very common thing in New York. I could be I could be in Midtown and I could know where the best bacon, egg, and cheese is for me, but you could also be in Lower Manhattan and have the best bacon, egg, and cheese. You
yeah,
literally can get a bacon, egg, and cheese on every corner of New York City. So I think that while there are places that are better than others, I think something like that, have to talk to, you have to actually, I think he needs to work with locals that he can trust,
yeah,
whether it's food bloggers, local food influencers, or just, he knows somebody in New York who like is lives and exists in New York on a regular basis. I think reaching out to your million followers who are often like sheep and waiting to see what you're going to do is kind of difficult to pinpoint, because this person was like, well, why did somebody asked, why did they tell him to have pizza in Manhattan? He shouldn't have been having pizza in Manhattan. Like, there was just a
uh-huh,
bunch of pizza and bacon, egg, and cheese are probably the two things that you could get most commonly in New York, other than like a hot dog and nuts or halal food. Those are probably
right.
the top five, right? Debatable, but they're very common.
They're easy
It's
to find.
hard for you to, like, how do you do that?
Right. The interesting thing was, and perhaps this is one of the flaws, but like recommending a place to get a bacon, egg, and cheese is kind of like awkward because, like you said, it is area specific, but also you don't go get a bacon, egg, and cheese because it's the quote unquote best. It's normally because it's the best by where you're at,
Right.
which is what you said, but that's why it's not a recommended place because the reality is it's not like a famous place makes it, right? Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
good example is a pastrami sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a pastrami sandwich in New York, you're probably only going to get one recommendation,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Cat.
Cats.
If you want, I don't even eat pastrami, but if you want pastrami, everybody knows you go to Cat's. But a
Mm-hmm.
bacon, egg, and cheese is just something you get at the local store.
Right. So
You don't go
it's
to like a famous restaurant to do a bacon, egg, and cheese. And I think that's
right.
part of the flaw with certain things. It's like in New Orleans, they make a specific drink that's very similar to an old fashioned.
Mhm.
It's called a Zazaraz or something like that. And I'm probably saying it wrong. I apologize. I've only been to New Orleans once, unfortunately. But you you can't just go anywhere and ask for that. Like it, or rather the opposite. Like if you went to New Orleans and was like, "Hey, where's the best place to get y'all version of an old fashioned?" They're probably not going to send you to one specific place because it's something that's popular throughout the whole city. Like,
Right.
so it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think that was the flaw with New York. I think in
Yeah.
New York, he almost needed someone to guide him through that experience.
He
And
should have called you.
listen, okay, I eat. Where are you going? I eat. I love to eat. I love to eat. I love to try new restaurants. Where the hell are you?
Keep going. I'm coming back. And you're going to laugh.
I love to eat. I love to try new restaurants. I am very much, I like to rate the food too. Okay. Okay. He could have called me. I love a good cocktail. All right. I love you just gonna eat on the pot. I haven't had breakfast yet.
Remember, for me, breakfast is like dinner. So, you know what I mean? Truffles. Why not? Let me do like Keith Lee and put it all in.
Why are you like this? And are there more?
Of course.
We've gone off course.
Because I
Oh, because
started
you
eating.
decided it's your fault.
I don't have coffee, so I had to get some sugar.
So
Are
I
we
like
done
to
with
eat.
Keith Lee? Oh,
Are we
you like to
done?
eat?
Well, no, we weren't done. So I think, just to get back on track, I think that you're right. It's flawed. I also think what he's doing is great. And I don't think it's wrong. I think a lot of people after the Atlanta situation felt like what he was doing was wrong. It's not wrong. People criticize food all the time. Also, also you can't you can't pick and choose when people need formal training, because the funniest thing to me that came out of the Atlanta thing was that he doesn't have any formal training. You don't need formal training to know whether you like food or not. That's
And I
not.
loved his response to that.
Yeah, right, right. um we can throw that up there if you want. But you don't need formal training for that. Does it help that you have over 1 million followers? Yes. My thing is, if people didn't want to hear what he had to say, if he had 25 followers and he was talking about food, and then it became this a huge viral situation, then fine, I could understand people being like, "Oh well," but millions of people follow him and actually listen to him. So he has influence. And that's really all he needs to do what he's doing. This whole idea that you don't have formal training, or the other, it was that, and then it was, oh, he doesn't know what it takes to have a restaurant or be a black restaurant owner. And then it was like, but you do, and that's why you should be good at it. Is that not the case? Because someone comes in, and historically, like food critics did exactly what Keith Lee is doing. Sure, people want to be able to say it's not the guy from TikTok, it's not the black guy from TikTok. People would prefer to say, oh, it's some white woman with a notepad who walked into a restaurant, and with her glasses. And anyway, yeah. So I don't remember what I was saying about Keith Lee now.
They would
Yeah,
welcome a white woman with glasses being a food critic.
they
They would
would.
prefer that.
They would prefer that, to quietly sit in their restaurant and judge every single thing and then write it in the New York Times. That that's what people would think is acceptable. And first of all, we live in a completely different world now.
Yes,
Also,
yes,
everything is based on the internet. That's how we make reservations. That's how we look up reviews. That's how we figure out, oh, is this interesting? We a lot of places we go and things we see are because someone else saw it and tasted it and thought it was cool and shared it
right.
today. So,
That's how I met my girlfriend. No, I'm just kidding.
oh, yeah.
Just kidding.
So that is the I think that's the hmm?
I'm just laughing.
I think that's the key here, is that there's no rules to any of this. And there's nothing wrong. People have been food blogging and people have been food influencing for many years. It's just,
Right,
and food blogging to me, while some journalists may complain about what I'm about to say, that is an extension of the food reviews you used to see. I don't even know if they're still there, but I'm sure they're online. But the food reviews you used to see in the New York Times when you open the Sunday paper or whatever it was, like, it's the same shit. You don't have to go to culinary school to know whether you like food or not. That just doesn't
right,
make any sense. We all eat. So it doesn't make any sense. And I would rather take the opinion of someone who's been to multiple restaurants and regularly goes to restaurants and tastes different types of food, rather than someone who doesn't. And what I appreciate about it is it doesn't always have to be high, right? It doesn't always have to be upscale. It doesn't always have to be low either. Like, he goes to different places and he'll tell you. He'll be like, he went to some place on the Vegas Strip and it was hella expensive, but he's trying it because he heard they had this thing that was interesting and he wanted to test it out. So I feel like we spent a lot of time on this, but I just wanted to make the point of, I know people were upset about New York, but there were people in New York who actually tried to sabotage him and tell him to go to places and do things that the average New Yorker would not be a part of their experience.
yeah,
So I think that's the flaw in the tour. I think that he really needs to maybe get with some other foodies who can not to take money out of his pocket or anything like that, but get with them to just find out what they're seeing. Like, what's the local scene really like? Or, you
right.
know, hell, even Airbnb now, you can find, like, some of the hosts will give you recommendations for things and stuff like that. And I don't know, but pulling things off of lists, or having transplants, people who are not native New Yorkers, give you recommendations on things they think are cool, is also very different from getting a local New Yorker to tell you exactly where the good food is. And New York is such a huge and massive food city. There's good food everywhere.
Yeah,
And it's not quite like New Orleans, where I literally, when I went to New Orleans, every single meal I had, no matter where I went, was delicious. I had my favorites, but everything was delicious. New York is not like that, and I have been to about half of those cities, maybe a little bit more than half of the cities that he listed. I could see, I understand the list a little bit, at least from that perspective, but that's that.
yeah.
Any
People are
last
upset about
thoughts?
the.
Sorry.
It's okay. People are upset about the list. People are reacting to the list. I I don't care about the list. It's interesting.
Hmm.
I you brought up a valid point that I agree with. It probably would behoove him to link up with locals of some sort, uh, as opposed to just getting random internet recommendations.
Yeah.
So I brought it to the pod because I know that's your dude. I know you're a fan of his, and it's also been a super hot topic all over the internet. So
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I am a big fan of his. I like what he's doing, and his story. Like just a couple months ago, he posted a video from a year ago when he was like, oh, he was down to I think his last $1,000 in his bank account or something like that, and that was
Yeah.
like all the money he had for him and his family for however long, and just talking about the fact that he didn't know where it was going to come from to
Right.
take care of his family. He has a wife and two kids, so to see him kind of grow his platform and become such a he's become a part of the national conversation. I just think it's pretty cool, and I think he's a pretty honest guy. I think he truly wants. Now, I think his issue, and then we can leave it alone. But I think his issue is, and it came out with Atlanta, is that he wants to be treated like a normal person going to a restaurant, and
Yeah.
but I think what he's
A
going
lot
to
of the
have to.
celebs disagreed with him.
Right, because he's basically saying he doesn't want special treatment or any of that.
Yeah.
You can't be a food critic and get special treatment. It doesn't work. Traditionally, it doesn't work because they're going to give you their best. They're going to treat you the best. And you're never going, and his whole idea is I'm trying to give you, the average Joe, the experience that you're going to have, not the experience that a celebrity is going to have.
Correct.
Um, yes, celebrities disagree with that. They have perks that come with being celebrities. He's
They
like,
seem to enjoy the privileges they have, and they don't agree with him stripping themselves of such privilege. Even though he's not saying other people should do it, but that's what he's doing. And so since he's denying it, they're saying, no, don't start that trend. We don't want to deny it. We want our
but
special treatment.
right, but I just don't even think that makes sense because they are actual famous people, actual celebrities, people who probably work in entertainment or whatever. He's actually a regular guy who was on TikTok sharing the food he likes.
Not to a lot of people. To a lot of people, he is a famous guy now.
Now, but that's not but he's not the cachet that I'm trying to think of who people who have said this. Um, the cachet that an actor, like let's say Tyler Perry, Ocho Cinco was somebody who spoke on this. The cachet that Ocho Cinco has when he walks into a restaurant and they seat him and at the best table and they am I boring you?
Come on, man, wrap it up.
And they seat him at the best table and they give him the best service is different from Keith Lee from the internet. Sure, he's being recognized now because of his following and because of the fact that this whole thing erupted in Atlanta. But no, he isn't someone who is every day considered someone who should get special treatment. These are people who their entire careers they've been able to skip the line and that's it's just not the same. And what I was going to say, the flaw in what he's saying is that you can't expect people to know you. On the other side of it, you can't expect people to know you and not react to you. That's unfortunately he's not going to be able to walk around anymore, and that's why he's been doing what he's been doing and staying in the car and having his family get
Sending in
takeout
family,
and
yeah.
yeah, and all of that. But no, you can't be doing what you're doing and now people revere you and think that they're not going to try to impress you, because the whole idea is that there is a return on their investment if they do take good care of you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's an interesting topic, but I don't know. I wish him well on all his future endeavors.
I mean, I think he's doing just fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
On that note, let's You want to give us your Renaissance review finally?